Bear down, Chicago Bears. We're going to check out the first four games of the season, and we're going to talk about Gabe Davis was almost a Chicago Bear, but it appears that he wanted to move back home to his home state of Florida, and that was the end of that. Which, of course, was a good development overall for the Chicago Bears because they ended up being able to go out and reach for Keenan Allen, make a trade, uh, get situated, if you will, for this next season. We're going to look at the first four games of the season to see, what is the matchup? Are we favorable? What does it look like overall for the Chicago Bears going into this season? If you like this type of content, you know what to do. So let's kick it off. We're not going to have a long show again today, but first up and foremost, if you will, is going to be Gabe Davis was almost a Chicago Bear. So the Jacksonville Jaguars made the first move of the receiver market when they got Gabe Davis. The Jaguars weren't the only team, however. Henry McKenna from Fox Sports reports that the Chicago Bears had made a similar offer to what the Jacksonville Jaguars had made for Gabe Davis. He ultimately chose the Jaguars because he wanted to be closer to home, allegedly. Also, he had a receivers coach. He had a receiver friend of his, Chad Hall, who was also playing for the Jaguars, and he had coached him in his first 3 years of his career. $13 million contract. Adding Davis is an interesting move for the Jaguars, considering the status of wide receiver Calvin Ridley. So we'll see how this all plays out, but that was a weird sort of scenario here, that Gabe Davis had chosen to go to Jacksonville to be closer to Florida or with his other coach than he was to be with the Chicago Bears. And then we have a wild ass prediction here, and this is from NBC Sports Chicago. Not even supporting the home team, not even going crazy with the home team. I don't understand this one. This one's got me a little bit. You know what I mean? A little bit. The NFL regular season schedule was released. The Detroit Lions have become the clear favorite to win the division, according to DraftKings, coming in at plus 150, with the next best odds being Green Bay at 210, followed by the Bears at 265, and then the Minnesota Vikings at 1,000. FanDuel also lists the Bears with a third best chance at a win in the division, setting the odds at 320. Lions prohibitive favorite at 145, with the Packers at 185, and the Vikings come in at 900. So the most glaring aspect of the game of the schedule is we don't have a division game until week 11. So uh, really, the it was an interesting thing. The NFL has kind of backloaded everybody's schedule with divisional games, and maybe what they're trying to do is to increase the stakes, if you will, because now you're going to have a run of games where you're playing your own division back and forth towards the end of your season, which will probably create a little bit of intrigue in some of these divisions. I mean, let's face it, even if you're the worst team, if you have the best record in your division, or if you start off cold, uh, you're going to have a great opportunity if you've come alive towards the end of the season. And maybe, just maybe, this would be a little bit cooler in that you're going to have the playoff teams who are most ready to compete at that point. I hope that makes sense to you guys. What I'm thinking is, if the Chicago Bears continue to improve and get better, it's possible that you lose a game first in the season early on because you're not really prepared. You're not really ready. Well, when you get into the meatier part of your schedule, then it is entirely possible that you end up seeing something fantastic happen to a team that might normally start off a little bit slow and come on towards the end of the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But the Detroit Lions are picked to finish first. Green Bay picked to finish second. Chicago Bears third, and the Minnesota Vikings in fourth, which it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't like the fact that we're not getting that shine, if you will, despite the fact that you get good grades in your report, you get good grades in your draft, you get good grades in your free agency. Doesn't seem to be quite that tweak, if you will, enough. You dominate for 2 games. I mean, look, you can talk all you want about the final 4 minutes and 54 seconds of the Detroit Lions game last year, but you dominate Detroit. You dominate them. And they're considered to be that much of a favorite. It seems like people are not really paying attention overall. And did Detroit do enough to get better as the Chicago Bears continue to improve? I mean, that would be the question, right? And I don't think the answer to that is yes. I think the answer to that is, if anything, maybe they've kind of stayed even, if you will. So we'll see how this ends up. And I'm certainly fascinated. I'm certainly just absolutely going to be fascinated with how this all plays out. So on the 2024 schedule, it really the Bears schedule is something of a weird sort of scenario. First of all, did the Tennessee Titans come in first? Then you have the Houston Texans, followed by the Minnesota. Oh my God, Indianapolis Colts, and then the LA Rams. So what does that look like more broadly on this schedule? Like, how does that come out? And look, do you see how grainy this camera is? I had to swap cameras this morning because I couldn't get this damn thing to work right. So anyway, the seasons. This is what it looks like for the first 4 games. So the 2023 record of the Tennessee Titans, 6-11. I'm really thinking that this is going to be a win. In fact, we had a better record overall going into 2023 going into 2024 from 2023. We had a better record. We had a better draft, by far a better draft, and we've enormously increased and upgraded this team. So I think that this Tennessee Titans team is going to take that hard L. Kevin Byard, of course, probably going to be fired up for this game. So I get the sense here that Chicago, and here's the good part. The good part, I think, at least for me, is that Caleb Williams is coming into a team with a losing record that didn't make enormous improvement, that didn't really nail the draft. It didn't really nail free agency in a superior sort of way. Now, when I break this down, the I guess we should look at what did the Titans pick up, and they picked up J.C. Latham, number 7 overall pick, Tavondre Sweat, which he was on our radar. North Carolina linebacker Cedric Gray, Louisville defensive back Jarvis Brownlee, Tulane wide receiver Jaquan Jackson, Miami linebacker James William, and Jalen Harrell. Now that doesn't seem to be a I don't think this is a tremendous upgrade for this team. I think that they made some good selections, J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, but after that, it leaves a little bit to be desired, in my opinion. So I don't think that the Tennessee Titans did enough to make enough of an upgrade that they can be considered a threat in any way. So I think that the overall here certainly favors the Chicago Bears. And the question at this point would become, who's the better quarterback, Caleb Williams or Will Levis? And Will Levis, I nothing against Will Levis, but I don't think that he measures up with Caleb Williams at this point. Now, and by the way, I say that knowing that Will Levis was actually a very, very, very tough out in the SEC, playing for the Kentucky Wildcats. Actually made that team a lot better than the sum of their parts for the time that he was there. So, but I don't think there's any chance that Caleb Williams takes an L in his first game. I get the sense here that the team's going to be playing for that big win. They're going to be ready for this one again. I think that they're going to be ready again for a nice run. So we're going to take the big W on this one. We're going to call this one a win. Then we're going to move on to Texans. Now this is the one that becomes intriguing, and this is the one where the big pick last year, CJ Stroud, ended up being a big hit for the Houston Texans, and they did a lot to upgrade. Now, when you look at the matchup, this is a 10-7 team versus a 7-10 team, and the Bears again second overall with NFL draft grade, and then in 2024 NFL draft grade 18th overall for the Houston Texans. But that's not where the Texans got better. They got better in free agency. So this one represents the first problem that I think the Bears are going to really face, and this is going to be that this is why I say that I think that having Tennessee on the radar for the first game makes the Bears a better team by the time they come into Houston, because the nervousness, the first game jitters that Caleb Williams would probably have or potentially have might go to the wayside with this move. So it looks to me like the Bears have a shot. And that's all we can ask for at this particular spot. This is Sunday Night Football. This is going to be Caleb Williams, if you will, coming out game. It's going to be his first time in the NFL national stage with all of the NFL and the fans looking on a Sunday Night Football game. How is he going to fare? And look, I got to say, I think that he's going to fare really, really well. Again, this is me pie in the sky. I'm a Chicago Bears maxi. I'm looking at a big potential win. Now, the question, of course, is how will the Bears secondary match up with people like Stephon Diggs? So we're going to be interesting to see here, but I'm going to say that the Chicago Bears are going to win in a very surprising fashion over the Houston Texans. I think that this is going to be the first time that we look at the Chicago Bears, and we're going to say after this game, we're going to be like, oh shit. I think we might be onto something here. I think we might have a little something better than we thought on our hands. I think this is the moment where we as fans are able to just go, wow, we actually do have something to write home about. So we'll see how it plays out. But then you follow that up with the Indianapolis Colts, and the Indianapolis Colts actually had a very good draft, ranked 6th overall, and came in with a 9-8 record versus the Bears in 2023, 7-10. Now, the question at this point is, did they do enough to get so much better that the Bears don't have a shot? I don't think so. I think that we're looking at the tale of two seasons. I think that the Chicago Bears showed themselves as an elite defense coming into the end of 2023 and probably kicking their way through 2024 in much better straits. And look, I think this just favorably, I'm going to maxi this one without saying too much, other than I don't see a big reason for the Bears to have. This is not going to be an easy win by any means. However, this is where you come off of that big high from Sunday. You just beat the Houston Texans, which, by the way, not an accomplishment, but a good win early in the season. And you're looking at the Indianapolis Colts, and I don't think that at this point anybody is underwhelmed by the Indianapolis Colts. I think people are going to be looking at the Indianapolis Colts and saying, you know what, this is one of those trap games where we could end up losing. So I think the Bears are still going to win, but this becomes a much tougher game because it's the after we've beaten the one team, the Houston Texans. After we've beaten them, then you're looking at this potential trap game, if you will. And then you got the Rams. The Rams, 10-7. They had a good draft. This is where it gets real difficult, at least in my opinion. Now, look, we have the third weakest schedule in the league. So, at some point, we're going to be playing some of the worst teams. But this stretch right here just was not it. So we're going to start off, again, we've got a 10-7 team and with a B+, 11th overall draft grade. And, how do we match up there? Is it favorable? The best thing that you can say is, one of the most alarming problems when you're facing the LA Rams, Aaron Donald, and he's gone now. So even if you had a good draft overall, even if you brought in some talent in your draft, you still have to deal with the loss of your star. And I mean, uh, Aaron Donald is a star in every possible way. Now, who did you bring in to replace him? Well, unfortunately, you brought in Jared Verse. Then you brought in Braden Fisk, Blake Corum, running back from Michigan, who we looked at him a couple of times too. And then they got Cameron Kitchens, safety out of Miami, Brennan Jackson, Tyler Davis, Joshua Carty, Jordan Whittington, Bo Limmer, and then KT Leviston. So I don't think that I think that this is a very intriguing sort of defense that we're coming into right here. It is possible that this again becomes another sort of trap game. And here's the thing: I don't think that the Bears are unprepared for any of these guys anymore. I think that the Bears are now ready for these big moments, if you will. And that's what you want to see out of the Chicago Bears. You want to see a team that's ready to take on whomever it is. And I think this is where we start to see the Bears are for real. This is where I'm going to tell you, I think that we dominate the Rams, who are looking to find their footing, looking for that next leg up, losing their big defensive guy. Look, Jared Verse is not going to replace Aaron Donald. Braden Fisk is not going to replace Aaron Donald. However, they are going to give them a little bit of a little bit of help, if you will. So the question at that point is, how well do the Chicago Bears do in this context? And I really think that we go into this at the end 4-0. The Chicago Bears end up 4-0 in the first 4 games of the season, and then from there, that's when we start to look at, and we'll look at the rest of this lineup at a later time. But for the first 4 games, 4-0 for the Chicago Bears. There's a trap here. There's 2 traps. There's one trap, but there's 2 very tough opponents in the Houston Texans and the LA Rams. So let me know what you think, guys, in the comments down below. Again, I got to get time to go get that swole on. So thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm keeping these short for the next couple of weeks, I think, because we don't have too much to talk about as we get into training camp, as we get into that. We're going to get more deep and deeper into coverage of all of this stuff. So in the meantime, we'll be putting out daily content, but these are going to be a little bit abbreviated. So thank you so much for tuning in. Bear down, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.